Boys and girls, welcome to Talkin' Jets with Tigo. We're back. We're live. We missed last Friday because, I was doing midterms. It was my son's first birthday. I got really busy, and then by the time I looked at the clock on Friday, it was like 1 in the morning, and I was like, oh my gosh, I missed my live stream. I missed all of my stuff, but we're back this week, and I'm very, very happy and excited to be back talking Jets with all of you beautiful people. For those of you who don't know, we've got some upgrades on the channel. If you have noticed, there was a new pair of headphones because my other one's broke. Thank you guys so much for giving me the opportunity to get that. But most importantly, we got a new camera, much wider angle lens. It should be clearer and a better picture, and you should be able to see more of the room and all of that stuff. So I'm going to be able to fill up this wall and the adjacent walls with stuff. Obviously, not that wall because there's a closet there. But we're going to be able to fill up this wall with more art, and I'm really, really excited to be able to do all of that. Today, we're going to be talking about the 2023 season and the 2023-2024 season, which is slowly but surely approaching us. It's already started off pretty tumultuous, especially when you take into consideration the injury to Chuck Clark. But there are a lot of players that are on this football team that are either new to this team that should be risers and we should expect really, really big things from this year in terms of having a good season. But there's also a bunch of players that are coming back to the team from last year that we should also expect that are going to not be able to maintain that same level of success that they had with this team early on in their careers. And so, or not early on in their careers, but early on in their careers as Jets. And so we're going to be going over the guys that I think maybe the expectations that we have for these gentlemen are maybe a little bit too high, and some gentlemen and some people that we have on this roster that I think the expectations are a little bit low for, and I think that we should expect monster years out of them. So before we get into that, let's say hi to some people in the chat. Shane McGarry, sorry about the Mets losing, especially on Apple TV. That sucks. And Hank G, it's good to hear that you're doing well. I'm doing great, man. I'm very, very excited to be back on YouTube and doing all of this stuff now that life has kind of calmed down. I will preface this right now. Florida has been going through like crazy thunderstorms and all that stuff. It is raining so hard right outside of that door. So if the stream goes out and the power goes out, I do have the live stream up on my phone. I will be able to tell you guys, hey, we lost power, I won't be coming back, or hey, it's just a glitch with the stream, we'll be right back. Something along those lines, but I did want to preface that right off of the gate. But let's talk about, and let's start this with the 5 players that I think a lot of people are sleeping on, that I think are going to have monster years for the New York Jets. People who their expectations that Jets fans and the media have of them are not up to par to what I actually think they are going to be. And the first one that I'm going to start with is going to be a guy that everyone, once I say the name, you're going to be like, what? No one's underrating this guy, and that's just how highly I think of this guy, that the expectations that are being set on this player are not high enough, and that is wide receiver Garrett Wilson. Everyone expects that Garrett Wilson with Aaron Rodgers is going to have himself a monster year, right? But when you take into consideration what he was able to do last year with some of the worst quarterback play in the NFL with the New York Jets, able to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, catch for 1,100 yards, the expectation that he isn't going to be arguably the best receiver in football now that he has an adult in the backfield throwing the ball to him and doing all that stuff is absolutely asinine to me. Garrett Wilson, I think, can truly compete with the likes of Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson in the conversation next year for being the best wide receiver in the NFL. And that's not because of those guys being bad or anything. I think it's just the fact that Garrett Wilson shut me up last year and shut me up big. For those of you who don't know or don't remember, when it comes to my expectations of Garrett Wilson, I did not have him as wide receiver 1 in last year's draft. I had that as Drake London. And now, after seeing what he did last year with this offense, with children in the backfield under quarterback, and then children calling plays, and how he was able to overcome all of that, I truly think this guy is going to have a monster year. Not only is he going to eclipse 1,000 yards, I think he's going to be pushing up for that 1,700, 1,800 yards next year, well into the double-digit touchdowns. The Aaron Rodgers to Garrett Wilson connection is going to be a dynamic duo that is going to strike fear into the hearts of everybody involved on the other side of the football field. So that is my number 1 player that I think people are underrating, and I think that are going to not only have a rise just because of Aaron Rodgers, but I think are going to explode. People really need to stay ready for Garrett Wilson because he's going to have himself a monster year. Now let's start with the first player that I think maybe takes a step back, might not live up to the hype that they had last year. And that might be because I think we overvalued or what's the right word here? It's a player that I think that we all love this guy. I love this guy on this team. But with all of that being said, I don't know if he's going to have that great of a year. And I don't know if he's going to even really say that he might not even make the team. And I have 2 guys in this category because it's whichever one of the guys makes the team, the other one doesn't. And that's going to be Michael Carter and Bam Knight. I think both of these guys are expendable pieces when it comes to the running back room, especially when you take into consideration Dalvin Cook was at One Jets Drive meeting with the New York Jets. I think that that's a signing. I think that's inevitable. I think that's happening sooner rather than later. Dalvin Cook will be a New York Jet. In my opinion, I think that's going to happen. But when you take into consideration Michael Carter is absolutely falling apart last year, not able to do anything when it comes to the production or anything like that. And I get it. Our offensive line was horrible. But the same thing happened to Bam Knight. Bam Knight had 1 good game last year. And then everybody fell in love with him because he ran really, really well against, I think it was the Bears. I think that was the game where he had like a really, really good day. No, it was against Buffalo, right? But again, it was a hurt Buffalo, ran for 71 yards. It wasn't like he ever really gave us anything that we could have hung our hat on. And so when it comes to the New York Jets, when it comes to guys that I don't think are going to live up to the expectation and guys that I'm worried about, Michael Carter and Donovan Knight, they share a space as 1 and 2 on my list of guys that might disappoint us as Jets fans, but also like they just might not make the roster. And I know a lot of people are going to yell at me about that, but running backs are not like they're you can get them off of the scrap heap and get them to work. And especially in this type of system. And when you've got a guy like Breece Hall, when you've got a guy like Dalvin Cook who might be coming to the New York Jets and all of those things, when you got a guy who's explosive like Israel Abanikanda, that room starts to get really crowded. Where does Bam Knight fit? Where does Michael Carter fit? I don't know. And the expectation that they're going to have bounce back years, I don't know. I just don't believe it. But that's me. Let's go over back to the right side of the football, and let's talk about the offensive side of the ball. Guys that I think are going to have an explosive year. People are sleeping on him way too much, and that's tight end CJ Uzama. He was on the thumbnail. That's the guy that I think is going to have a monster year. Last year, Mike LaFleur absolutely mismanaged the crap out of the tight end room. He looked, like I said, looked like a kid out of water, man. He didn't know, like a fish out of water. He didn't know what he was doing, it seemed like, when it came to adjusting and utilizing the players and their skill sets. And CJ Uzama turned into a glorified offensive lineman. He was a sixth blocker. He was never really targeted or had balls thrown at him. And I think that when you bring in a guy who loves throwing to tight ends like Aaron Rodgers, an offensive coordinator who loves using his tight ends like Nathaniel Hackett, CJ Uzama is going to have a monster of an explosion. And I think that that's going to be really cool. Give me 1 second. Say hi to some people while I do some writing Got to write some things down so I don't lose my track of where I am, because I came up with this list in my head and I'm already losing track of who I said and who I didn't say. So we're going to do that. Let's say hi to some people in the chat. Rico the Pup. Long time no live stream to you. Glad to see you back. Yeah, man. I said the last couple of weeks have been midterms and my kid's first birthday. So we were planning on doing all of this stuff and all of these things there. And like I said, last Friday when I was supposed to go live, I looked at the clock. It was like 1 a.m. and I was like, oh my God, so many things are going on. And I just lost track of time. And this week I made sure that I was, live. And yeah, wanted to do that. And so, yeah. Now we're going back. Oh, let me see if there's anybody else. I think Dalvin Cook is overrated. All his good runs last year were offensive line blowing doors open. Beyond that, he struggled. I don't disagree with you, NY Cursor. The thing is that Dalvin Cook isn't being brought in to be the Dalvin Cook from a couple of years ago. The reality and the way that you have to look at the bringing in of Dalvin Cook is supposed to replace Michael Carter, right? He's not here to really supplement Breece Hall and what he can run and what his ability is. That's what Israel Abanikanda was drafted for. Like, that's what Izzy is going to be doing. It's going to be trying to replicate what we got out of Breece Hall last year, especially because Breece might still be hurt and might not be 100%. We don't want to put the whole load on him. But what Dalvin Cook does is that he is a better version of Michael Carter. He is a better version of Bam Knight. And in the right situation and in the right system, like, he can excel, and he's coming from a very similar system. The Minnesota Vikings have run a offshoot of a West Coast system for a long time under the previous head coaching administration, under the current head coaching situation, and all of that stuff. And so he's already kind of familiar with the playbook and the schemes and the running and has that vision. If the offensive line can do their job and create the holes and not get as hurt as they were last year, he still has the explosive ability to hit a hole and hit that home run. And that's what he provides that Michael Carter doesn't, right? Now, if Bam can show that he has the vision in the backfield, I would prefer for us to do it with Bam, obviously. But it's one of those things that we haven't seen it from him yet. And you can argue, oh, it's because our offensive line was horrible and all of these different things. And I hear that. I totally hear that. But when you see, Dalvin Cook has been considered one of the better running backs in the NFL over the last couple of years, and is starting to tail off in a room where he's not going to be running back 1 or running back 2, and he's arguably going to be running back 3 in a rotation. That's where his value comes in, especially at $2 to $4 million. And when you really only have 2 guys that you can feel confident in when it comes to your running back room, and that's Breece Hall and Izzy, because Michael Carter obviously fell off a cliff last year. Bam Knight was ultimately a disappointment, in my opinion, last year. And so you're projecting, obviously, when it comes to the guys that you're looking at positively, because Breece Hall and his injury, where is he? We don't know. But if you project positively on the injury, you're going to see, hey, you know what? Hey, this guy's going to do great. And then Izzy is a rookie with fresh legs and doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on him. And the guy scored 20 running touchdowns last year. So projecting a running back should be better. But, yeah. Welcome back, but I disagree. Knight and Carter can find holes. Cook needs the holes open for him. Carter and Knight suffered from an injured O-line. But also, like, Minnesota's offensive line last year was also very injured. You have to look at the whole picture. And I'm not trying to say that Cook or whatever or anything like that. I think Dalvin Cook to the New York Jets is inevitable. It's going to happen. And it's going to happen because there isn't confidence in the running back room outside of Breece Hall and Israel Abanikanda, and I get that. And what happens if our offensive line gets injured again? We don't know what's going to happen. If they get injured again and now we've got 2 other guys, we got the same 2 guys from last year who can't create holes and can't do those things. And let's put Dalvin Cook in that spot as well. Can't create holes or anything like that. I have a much higher faith that Dalvin Cook is going to be able to do that because he did it before than I am in Michael Carter or in Bam Knight. Now, again, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope that Bam Knight makes this team because the guy is a home run hitter. Wow, is he fast and strong. But to say that I'm banking on it, this is a go for it and all in here. And while Dalvin Cook isn't the guy I wanted or the guy I want when it comes to like a running back that we can go out and get, I do think we do need to address the running back room. I just think that Dalvin Cook is an inevitability. I would have preferred a guy like Kareem Hunt because I think he still has stuff in the tank, but that hasn't, turned into anything. We've never brought him in for an interview. Haven't had that conversation. So we'll see. Thanks for the comment though. Appreciate it. So let's go to the next guy that I think is going to have a down year and might not be what's going to, might not live up to the expectation that maybe we have of this player when it comes to being that guy. And this one's going to hurt me to say a lot because I love this dude. But I think he's going to get tried a lot more this upcoming year. And, okay, it's DJ Reed, right? Cornerback, DJ Reed. I love DJ Reed. And DJ Reed was so underrated last year when it came to what he actually did on the field. I argue that he was a top 10 corner in the NFL. He was part of the best cornerback duo in the NFL. He was a part of the best cornerback trio in the NFL. And I think that with all of that being said, I'm not expecting him to fall off a cliff like an Xavier Howard or something like that. No. But I think what we might end up seeing from DJ Reed is a coming back to earth. I think that's the better way to say it. I think he's going to just come back down and be the guy that we thought that he was, a top 20 corner in the NFL. And that's exactly what we need him to be, because on the other side, we have the best cornerback in football, which we'll get to him later on in this list. I don't know which side. Wink, wink. We don't know yet. But the reality is that when you look at risers and fallers and the expectations from these guys, DJ Reed outperformed last year any year of his career. Like, in my opinion, he was one of the best receivers in football last year. And a lot of that came, and he was tested a lot, but with how dominant Sauce was and the tape on Sauce being the fact that, like, wide receivers just don't get open against him. And with these teams that we're going to be facing, trying to find the hole, I think DJ Reed is going to take a step back, not because of anything other than I think he's going to get tested a whole lot more, because teams should be scared to throw the ball at Sauce. And that sucks to say. But DJ Reed probably not going to maintain his level of play. Now let's talk about risers, a guy that I expect to have an absolute monster of a year. And it's actually two guys that I'm going to put in this category because I really like these guys. I love these guys. I love what they can do. I love what their ability is and all of that stuff. And I think they're both coming off of injury, obviously. And so those two guys that I think are going to have really, really good years, Dwayne Brown and Mekhi Becton. I think we've really got a really, really good dynamic duo when it comes to the offensive tackle room. Dwayne Brown did admirably last year with one arm. It wasn't great. It wasn't this performance that we really, really wanted out of him. But I think when you take into consideration that the guy could have walked off into retirement and still gotten paid and all of this thing, no, he decided to come back. He had the surgery. He's going off of the rehab and all of those things, and he's motivated. He's got to protect Aaron Rodgers, and this is a team that can legitimately win him another Super Bowl. Does Dwayne Brown have a Super Bowl? Was he there for Seattle when they won the Super Bowl? Because he's played for like a million years. When did Seattle win the Super Bowl? Was he there? Was that 2012 when they won the Super Bowl? I think he was there. He was playing. I think he was there. Whatever. That's not important. I'm not going to look that up. Someone in chat look that up and let me know. But I think that this is an opportunity to cement his legacy. Go and get another Super Bowl ring and show that even at his age, he can still do it and do it well. And then when you look at Mekhi Becton, it's a contract year for Mekhi Becton. The guy needs to get paid. He needs to show that he can be a tackle at this level. And the only way that he's going to do that is by performing exceptionally well. He's got to put up or shut up. And with an opportunity like this, I think that he's more motivated than ever. There is a thing about having a kid that motivates you and all of those things. And there's a thing that's going to motivate him to wanting to shut up all of the haters and all of that stuff. And like I said, a contract year was on the Seahawks from 2017 to 2021, so he was not there for the Super Bowl ring. Thank you, Shane McGarry. So it's one of those situations where you look at it and you go, like, I think both of these guys are going to outperform, what their expectations are. And I think that is going to bleed into the rest of the offensive line. And we're going to see, elevations in other players' games on that offensive line. And it's really going to help. Now, a guy that's probably going to take a step back in this year, and that has nothing to do with ability, but everything to do with he is in one of the most crowded rooms in the NFL when it comes to this position group, and that is edge rusher Jonathan Franklin Myers. He is going to have his role reduced, and we're going to see him playing a lot less snaps, and that's because Jermaine Johnson really exploded onto the scene last year, and he has earned the right to be able to take snaps away from Jonathan Franklin Myers, and I think that that's going to happen, right? But also the drafting of Will McDonald IV and all of those things, you're looking at one of the more crowded rooms in the NFL is this edge rusher room for the New York Jets, because Lawson's got to get snaps, JFM's got to get snaps, Jermaine Johnson's got to get snaps, Will McDonald's got to get snaps. Someone try to tell me who's going to tell Michael Clemens that he's not going to get snaps. Bryce Huff, I just mentioned him. He's going to get snaps. You got a lot of these guys that are like really able to compete for snaps, really able to go after the passer and get and create penetration, that we're going to use our rotation more, not less. And because of that, I think that we're going to see a dip in production from Jonathan Franklin Myers, because his snaps are going to go down, because the argument has to be had. I think Jermaine Johnson has the potential to be a better Jonathan Franklin Myers. And that's saying something, because Jonathan Franklin Myers, when you look at the stats and the grades and everything like that, JFM is arguably one of the better edge rushers in the NFL. Now, I'm not saying he's like a top 10 edge rusher, but when you look at most metrics and most grading metrics, he is definitely a top 20, top 15, and on some lists, edge rusher in the NFL. He was by far and away our best edge rusher last year. But that doesn't mean that the other guys were bad. And those guys definitely deserve more snaps. And now that we've got a super crowded room, watch out. JFM is going to have a hard time keeping these guys off of the field with his play, because JJ and WM4, watch out. I really like these guys, and I really believe in these guys. And I think that they're going to do insanely good things. I saw this question by NY Cursor. I had started my take, so I'll come back to it. Who do you think wins left tackle between Mekhi Becton and Dwayne Brown? I think it's been made pretty clear that Dwayne Brown is going to be the left tackle and that Mekhi Becton is going to be the right tackle. There's also been tape of Mekhi Becton running drills and doing his things like that, and all of the drills that he has been doing in the tapes that we've seen are right tackle drills. He's launching back with his right foot. His right hand is down. Is it right hand down, left hand down? I forget which one it is for the tackle. All of the drills and all of the things that he's been doing has been to play the right tackle spot. And I think the biggest thing that we're going to see, and it makes a ton of sense, right? Mekhi Becton's biggest struggle has been in pass protection, and his biggest, is it been pass protection, or is it, I don't remember. I have to go look at my scouting report for Becton again, because I forget. But that's besides the point. Putting him on the right side is going to give him the ability to really get comfortable in his pass sets, because that's where he hurt his knee, was in his pass sets. And we all know that the weak side, we all know that the strong side is better suited to running the ball. So he's really going to be moving downhill, which is going to be better for his knee than coming back and stepping back and doing those things. So that's going to be a good thing for Mekhi Becton. And then ultimately he can win the left tackle job next year if he stays with the team. If he walks, if he gets franchise tagged, we don't know. But that's a problem for next year that we can talk about. But yeah, I think that it's going to be Dwayne Brown on the left, Mekhi Becton on the right, and we'll see how it goes from there. I definitely agree with the JFM take. His contract was a result of the team not having any real talent when he got that contract, so we overpaid. I don't actually think we overpaid for JFM. Jonathan Franklin Myers' contract is absolutely on par with the performance and the level that and the responsibility that he has for this team. It's not an overpay in my estimation at all. I actually really like that contract that we gave him. Let me look up the contract, because the contract was $55. It was a $13 per year $1 million contract over 4 years, right? So he averaged the 13 3/4, $14 million per year as an edge rusher. And when we look at the contracts of the NFL and like what they are, that's not that bad when you look at his performance level and what he's doing. His contract puts him at number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17th highest paid edge rusher in the NFL, right? On an average per year basis, not total contract value, right? It puts him at 17. And I just said it. I think he's a top 17 edge rusher. So I don't have a problem with the contract. That's not a thing at all. And if anything, I think we underpaid him, because there are some guys that are on this list that I think he's better than, that are making more money than him. There's an argument that, he's better than Randy Gregory, and Randy Gregory's making more money. Danielle Hunter isn't the same Danielle Hunter of the past. And, there's an argument to say that he's better than them, better than him. Not Emmanuel, but Shaq Barrett. And is Shaq Barrett really worth $17 million? Is, Von Miller at this age really worth $20 million? Bradley Chubb is making $22 million for the Miami Dolphins. That's insane. And is Bradley Chubb really better than Jonathan Franklin Myers? So again, not to sit here and play the compare game, because I'm always going to look at the Jets players through a positive light, obviously. But I actually don't think we overpaid Jonathan Franklin Myers. I actually think that the contract was really, really valuable and really, really good. The problem is we gave him the contract, and then we drafted Jermaine Johnson, drafted Michael Clemens, drafted Will McDonald IV, paid Carl Lawson. Like, we just did a bunch of stuff afterwards, and we just said, hey, here's this edge rusher room. We're going to flood it with a bunch of talent. And that's what happened. Will McDonald's nickname has to be WMD. Boom, love it. That's it. I love it. Per player, the numbers will go down as a unit. The D-line is fearsome on player. Love it. You don't think Rucker makes the giant leap this year? Maybe plays some snaps at fullback? Hey, Johnny, the list isn't over, my guy. We're on 3. Can I finish the list? He's due over $16 million next year and $17 million the year after, $11.5 million this year. I respectfully disagree. Well, that's because that's how we set up the contract. And that's more along the lines of voiding contracts and things like that, because his cap hits were so low in year 1 and year 2. He was a $1 million cap hit the first year of his deal. That's absolutely nothing. And so again, cap charges and what he got paid are two different things, because contracts get worse as time goes on, because every team is going to backload contracts as much as possible. And that's just how it works. It's the same thing with Aaron Rodgers, right? The cap hit for Aaron Rodgers this year is $1 million. Next year, it's $107 million. So it's one of those things where the cap hit is always, watch out when Quinnen Williams gets his contract, it's going to be stupid, right? We're going to save money on the Quinnen Williams contract this year, which is going to be stupid, because he's what, a $9 million? I'm going to look it up. Quinnen Williams is a $9.5 million cap hit this year. So when we extend him, he's cracked. When we extend him, he's going to go from that $9.5 million cap hit. I can guarantee you he's going to be like a $7 million cap hit or an $8 million. We're going to save money on the Quinnen Williams contract because we're just going to do some stupid cap shenaniganery, and he's going to get, $8 million against the cap this year. Next year, he's going to get like $12 million against the cap. And then in year 3 of his deal, he's going to be like a $28 million cap hit. And in year 4 of his deal, he's going to be like a $35 million cap hit. But you know what that sounds like? That sounds like future Joe Douglas problems, not current Joe. Like, go win a Super Bowl, because if you have to pay Quinnen Williams after back-to-back Super Bowl runs, $28 million, you can figure out the money after that, and the salary cap is going to explode. So again, the cap is going to be really, really weird, and the numbers are always going to be weird. And that's why when I like to evaluate contracts, I like to do it as if they were hockey contracts. Let's take the contract and let's divide it over the years. What's the average annual value of the contract? 13.75. That's what he's getting paid per year. That makes a ton of sense. I like that contract. And whether or not he actually gets paid that every year, I don't give a crap, right? Like, I just don't. So the average annual is what I take a look at, and that's how I rate contracts. Other people might be different. Let me know what you guys think. We're just hyped that you're back. I know, I'm hyped too, man. Dalvin Cook to the Jets. It's inevitable, Donald Perry. I think it's going to happen. All right. Let's go to guys that I think are going to have massive explosions in year. This is number 4, and number 4 is Lakin Tomlinson. That's right, 3 guys on the offensive line, and I think that's just because Lakin Tomlinson had arguably the worst year of his career last year. It was not a good year. Maybe it argues or competes with his second year when he was on Detroit, I believe, in 2015, 2016? One of those years, right? It just wasn't good. And a lot of that could be attributed to the fact that, the offensive play calling wasn't great. The offensive line coach wasn't that great. His father passed away, I believe, and he had a death in the family, and he was dealing with that and wasn't able to really turn that into motivation. We don't know if he was injured and nagging and dealing with something last year. We don't know, but the thing that I can say is that it can't really get worse, right? Lakin Tomlinson was the guy that I wanted when it came to the guard position, and honestly, the motivation of being able to play with the best quarterback that he's ever played with in his career, as well as legitimately competing for a Super Bowl, I think, and again, 1 year removed from the death of the family, hopefully he went and got the help that he needed and everything like that. Lakin has to get better. Just plain and simple. And I think that when you look at his career as a whole, before this year, he had 1 stinker, and it was his second year. I can't remember if it was year 1 or year 2. Can't remember if it was year 1 or if it was year 2. But it was either 2015 or 2016 where he was absolutely horrible. But every year after that, he was actually pretty good, if not average. And then the last couple of years in San Francisco was one of the best guards in football. And so when you look at all of that, when you take that into consideration, the expectation has to be that he's going to take a step up, that he's going to step up and play the level of football that we all expected from him. Lakin Tomlinson can't get much worse. I think he's going to get exceptionally better, and that's that. And Xavier, give me 2 seconds, and I will recap the list before we hit number 5 on both the risers and the fallers. Spot on. He can't really do much worse than he did last year. Lakin whiffed so many times that I genuinely wondered if he had an issue with his vision. I think there was a lot of things going wrong last year. It was a lot of compounding things. And then you take into consideration, like, dealing with a death has to be something, thankfully, and I'm going to knock on all the wood, that I've never had a death in the family. I've never experienced or know what that is like emotionally. Thankfully, all of my grandparents are alive, or like all the grandparents that I met, like my dad's father passed away, but I met him once and I don't remember it, and that was it. Besides the point, I haven't had a death in the family, thank God, and I hope to not have one for a long time, so I don't know what emotionally that's like. I can't really relate, but it can't be fun. and some people use that as motivation. DJ Reed also had a death in the family last year. I believe it was his father as well. And he used that as motivation and legitimately put up one of the best years of his career. Lakin Tomlinson took it maybe a different situation. So, again, he can't get much worse. He's going to get better. And so I totally agree with that. Let's recap the list. Let's talk about my top 4 risers. Number 1, Garrett Wilson. I think that he's going to have a monster year. The expectations that people are setting for him are too low. I think he's going to be better than what people expect. Number 2 is CJ Uzama. I think that he is going to arguably be the best tight end in our offense, hands down. I think he's finally going to be utilized correctly, and if Nathaniel Hackett could make a tight end in a lab for his offense, CJ Uzama fits that bill perfectly. Number 3 is 2 players that are tied for number 3, and that's left tackle Dwayne Brown and right tackle Mekhi Becton. Both players coming off of injury. Both guys that I expect to have monster comeback years. One, because Dwayne Brown is in probably the twilight of his career. This is probably the last opportunity that he has to go and win a Super Bowl, and to cement his legacy to do such a thing would be an absolute delight. And we learned previously in the stream, he did not win the Super Bowl ring with the Seattle Seahawks. When they won it, this would be his opportunity to win his first ring, and it would be his real opportunity to do it. The best quarterback that he's ever had to protect. Dwayne Brown's going to step up, and Mekhi Becton is coming off and needing to shut up a lot of doubters. He's in a contract year, and whether or not he has a career in the NFL is going to be dictated by this year, by this year's performance, and I think that he's going to live up to that expectation. And then number 4, we just finished talking about him, is Lakin Tomlinson. Those are my 4 risers, with the 5th one coming on the way. And then my 4 guys that I think that are going to, 3, because I didn't get to 4 yet, is number 1, or tied for number 1, is Michael Carter and Bam Knight. I just don't believe in this running back room outside of Breece Hall and Israel Abanikanda, especially when you take a look at we're introducing and we're having this idea of having the conversations with Dalvin Cook and these other running backs. We were in the running for a lot of these different running backs. There was the rumor that came out that if the running back out of Alabama, I already forgot his name, that if he was available and if the Detroit Lions didn't take him, that the New York Jets were interested in taking him at 15 instead of, Will McDonald. If we take all of that to be true, it kind of shines a bad light on our running back room that we currently have, and I tend to agree with that assessment. Number 3 is DJ Reed. DJ Reed played out of his mind last year as a top 10 cornerback in the NFL, in my estimation. And I think that he's going to... Antonio Gibbs. Thank you, Xavier Garcia. I think that DJ Reed is going to have kind of a coming down to earth and playing to what he normally plays with. Like I said, last year there was a little bit of extra motivation, and with the NFL being put on blast and being shown that the best cornerback in football, Sauce Gardner, should not be messed with. Do not throw the ball at him. He will not give up a reception. He will not give up a touchdown. He's going to get tested way, way more in DJ Reed. And with that and him being given a focus a lot more and being targeted a lot more, I think we're going to see a coming down to earth. Now, that being said, I don't expect him to fall off the planet. I just said he's a top 10 corner. Let's just be average next year. Let's just be a top 25 cornerback in the NFL. And I'd be more than happy with that. But that is a pretty steep drop-off from top 10 in the NFL. And then at number 3, guy that I think is not going to have the year that we kind of expect him to, is Jonathan Franklin Myers. And I said that because it's just a really crowded room. I really like Jonathan Franklin Myers. I still think that he's the best edge rusher for the New York Jets on our roster right now. But with Carl Lawson coming in at the second year after the injury, Jermaine Johnson coming into his sophomore year, Will McDonald, the 4th, coming in. We got a lot of mouths to feed. And I didn't even mention Bryce Huff and Michael Clemens and all of those guys. We're all going to see that. So let's go to the number 4 faller on this list. And I hate to put him on this list because I really do like him as a Jet. And if his role remains the same as it is right now, unfortunately, we're going to see a dip in production, and it's just because of age. And that's C.J. Mosley. C.J. Mosley was an exceptional linebacker for the New York Jets last year. He was a tackling machine. He was everywhere on the field, and he was arguably the only piece in that middle linebacker room that was worth a damn at all, because we all saw and know what we got out of Quinnen Williams last year. We got some big hits, but we got some really big whiffs. Quan Alexander really didn't play enough to contribute positively or negatively to this team. He was, barely used really statistically last year, and was used in a very hybridized role. And you also really didn't see him unless he was dropping a big hit. And so C.J. Mosley played exceptionally well for the New York Jets last year, even if it was kind of average. But the problem is that C.J. Mosley is not getting any younger at 31 years of age. The expectation that he's going to be able to run sideline to sideline, keep up with everybody, keep up with everything that's going on, I just don't believe it. I don't know what, we expect from him at this age. And if we continue to want to play him at that middle linebacker role, just watch out, because it's just not going to go well. And that's sad, because it should go well. It should do good things. And that's why I've been a proponent of moving him to the will spot and having Jamie Sherwood play the mic, because he's younger and faster and he can play that role, I think. But if we run it back and C.J. Mosley is again the middle linebacker for the New York Jets, because we have not addressed the linebacker room in a significant way, if all of that is true and C.J. Mosley is our middle linebacker, watch out. We might be disappointed with his performance. I know a lot of Jets fans are already disappointed with C.J. Mosley and want him off of the team or cut or whatever it is. And while I don't think that's going to happen, I think changing his role is what's best for him, and I have no idea if the New York Jets are going to do that. Moving on to the number one riser, the guy who I think is going to have the biggest explosion from last year to this year, and the number one faller, the guy who I think is going to be an absolute crap show when it comes from last year to this year. Number one, you might have guessed it. Johnny Jimenez guessed it. It's Jeremy Rucker. Jeremy Rucker was dealing with an injury all of last year and was not able to see the field at all. Just at all. And when you take that into consideration, and the fact that now he's come in, he knows the playbook, and again, if Nathaniel Hackett could build a tight end in a lab, freaking Jeremy Rucker would be that dude. He's young, he's fast, he's a receiving threat, and he can block. And like Johnny Jimenez said, he can play fullback. Now, do I think he's going to play fullback? Who knows? We still have Nick Bawden. I think that there is an outside shot that he makes this roster. Watch out. He's my sleeper to make the roster, the 53-man roster. But still, a guy whose production I think is going to take a massive step up, who's going to be one of the better players for the New York Jets and is going to earn his right as tight end 2. Jeremy Rucker is that guy, and by the end of the year, I would not be surprised if he was tight end 1. But my expectation is that in 12 personnel and 22 personnel, whenever we have 2 tight ends on there, Nathaniel Hackett is going to want to be able to send out CJ Uzama and Jeremy Rucker, and that's that. And I have a hard time with this one, because I don't want to say one of these guys is going to have a bad year. I don't want to say that one of these guys is going to have is going to fall off a cliff in terms of production. And there's a lot of names that come to mind when it comes to something like that. Can I just say Zach Wilson, because he's just not going to throw the ball? Is that okay? Can I just say Zach? Are we cool with that? Because I don't want to really I don't want to believe that our other guys are just going to fall off a cliff. Is that allowed, chat? Chat, let me know. I'm gonna stall for a little bit. Can I just say Zach Wilson is the guy who's going to fall off a cliff because he's just not going to take a single snap for this football team? Or can I say Connor McGovern, since we drafted his replacement in Joe Tippmann? Are either one of those allowed? Because I don't want to say anybody else. Even though I know the answer that's probably going to be out there. This is the one that my biggest scared. This is the one that I think that I'm scared of the most. Zach will play fourth quarter of every game. I love it. So if that's the case, can't say Zach. What about Connor McGovern? Is Connor McGovern a guy I can say? Xavier Garcia, I mean, I would. Alrighty. I didn't want us to do this. I didn't want to say this. But a guy that I have a hard time... It won't happen. Boyle's not going to beat out Zach. But I don't like saying this. But my expectation is that a guy who might not live up to the hype of last year and might come down to earth just a little bit might be Quinnen Williams. There, I said it. He was the guy on my list. I didn't want to say it. There's a lot of things, and I don't this is something that I don't believe. It's more of a fear than something that I actually believe. I believe in Quinnen Williams. I think he's the best player on our defense. I love Quinnen Williams. But let's look at the stats. Let's just look at the statistics. Let's look at the numbers. Let's just talk this out. Let's just talk it out, right? Quinnen Williams was on a contract year. And this is the first year where he's really dominated, right? His second year was excellent. Was a great year. But it wasn't this, right? He was unstoppable. Unstoppable this year. Arguably the second best interior defensive lineman in the NFL. But the defensive line is going to provide more help, right? We were just talking about the edge room being so crowded. He's going to get a lot more help from the edge. You're going to have to focus on the edge a little bit more. The snap count's not going away. And does Quinnen Williams have the motivation to continue to want to be one of the best players at his position after making all of that money? I don't know. I hope so, but I don't know. And it hurts me to say that. And I guess the reason that he's on this list is because even if he comes back down to earth and plays where he probably should live in that, let's say, top 14 spot, anywhere from 8 to 14 is probably where he should live in terms of rankings. That's still a pretty big drop-off of second best interior defensive lineman in the NFL. Right? It's like if Sauce Gardner went from being the best corner in the NFL last year to just being 10th. That's a pretty big drop-off, right? Now, I still think that Sauce Gardner is the best cornerback in the NFL. You can't really go up from the best, right? You can only go down, and I don't think he's going to go down. That's why he's not on this list. But there hasn't been a consistency from Quinnen Williams. He's going to get paid. I hope. This is the one that I hope I'm the most wrong about. Everything else I kind of think is going to happen. This is the one, I did not want to say it. I had to find a fifth guy, and I didn't want to take the easy way out and say Zach Wilson or Connor McGovern, or a guy who just straight up lost their job, right? Like an easy one would have been Corey Davis, because he just lost his job as wide receiver 2 to Alan Lazard. So his production's going to go down. That felt too easy, and I didn't want to do that. So it sucks to say. But Quinnen Williams is the player that I'm most scared of not living up to the hype, because our defense runs through Quinnen Williams. And if, God forbid, why am I even putting this out into the universe? Why are you guys letting me say this? Someone, stop me. Stop me. If the rest of the defense can't keep up with Quinnen, we might see that fall back to earth that we saw from Quinnen when he didn't have defenses that could help him, like in his rookie year or last year, where there wasn't a defense that could help him. So Here's to hoping that the rest of the defense lives up to the thing. Here's to hoping I am so incredibly wrong. This is one of my worst. Like, I hope that this is the level of wrong like I was with Garrett Wilson, right? And there's that. Boom. I think Mighty Quinnen excels, but numbers of sacks might suffer. Jets rotation scheme it the problem. As a unit, they will look good. I expected you to name him. I get it. Like I said, I don't want to name him. I still think that he's the most dominant guy on our defensive line. It's just a matter of his motivations. And I don't know what his motivations are. Don't know Quinnen Williams like that. But there's that. There's not a damn thing we can do. Don't blame us. Yeah, you can, Xavier. Go cut off my internet. I don't know. If Q drops a bit, the rest of the line will pick it up. What is Quinnen Williams' fall level? Top 10 DT instead of top 2? But dude, that's still a pretty, it's like I was saying, let's say he falls back to where he should live, which is top 12, right, Q Lake Jet fan? That's 10 spots. That's still a massive drop-off, in terms of production. In the sense of, you were the best at your position, now you're guy. Now you're just above average guy, right? And that is a thing. But we're done talking about it. Quinnen Williams is going to have 90 sacks next year. We're done. Hey, it's 19 hours. Okay, not 24. My prediction for this year, Aaron Rodgers wins MVP, Garrett Wilson Offensive Player of the Year, Brees Comeback Player of the Year. Most important, the Jets win the Super Bowl. Yeah, I don't know if Garrett Wilson, here's the thing. The Offensive Player of the Year award is such a, Garrett Wilson can absolutely win it. And if he hits the numbers that I projected for him, he should definitely be in the running. But there's going to be this anti-Jets bias, right? There's for example, there's this Kansas City Chiefs bias that we see when it comes to winning the awards, especially on the offensive side of the ball, because Patrick Mahomes is just so freaking good. And we see the same thing. So it's one of those things where it's just we might see an anti-Jets bias because if the Jets, let's say, win 14 games and Aaron Rodgers looks like MVP Rodgers again, and Garrett Wilson is on MVP-like numbers on the offensive side of the ball, and Sauce Gardner is still that dude, and Quinnen Williams is in the conversation for the Defensive Player of the Year, and Breece Hall is in that conversation for the Comeback Player of the Year, and Coach Saleh is in the race for the Coach of the Year, there's going to be an inherent Jets, anti-Jets bias, because they're going to look like we can't just paint these awards Gotham green. It's not possible. Can't do it. We got to give the awards to somebody else. And so that's where I think I have a problem with it. Now, am I saying that they shouldn't win it? No. You can easily convince me that next year the New York Jets win the MVP, the Offensive Player of the Year, the Defensive Player of the Year, the Comeback Player of the Year, the Executive of the Year from Joe Douglas, the Head Coach of the Year with Robert Saleh, the Best Colored Green Team of the Year. Insert all of the awards. The Jets should be in the conversation if all of the things that we believe happen. And they can happen. But there's inherently going to be an anti-Jets bias because we're going to have the best offense and the best damn defense in the NFL. And they're going to have to give everybody else their participation trophies. Thanks for coming. You ain't the New York Jets. But that's that. Guys, it is thundering so hard, I think I'm going to lose power any minute. So I'm going to end the stream here. We're going to end with the story time. Thank you so much for everybody who stopped by. Greatly appreciate it. If you're still here, hit the like button while I tell a quick story time about my son's first birthday. So as you guys know, my son's first birthday was last week. He was born June 13th. It was 10 days ago. And so we were getting ready for his birthday. We did his birthday the Saturday after, his birthday party the Saturday after, right? Why couldn't the storm stop me when I was talking all that stuff about Q, man? And yeah, you're right. I don't know why, but New York is the city everyone loves to hate. But as I was saying, so we were doing his birthday. And so what we did was we booked out this massive gazebo at a park. It was going to be outside. He had just learned how to walk the week before, and it was awesome. So he was going to be able to run around, and there was a splash pad. It was going to be great. We were going to have a blast. So we wake up in the morning and it's kind of like windy, not windy, but like cloudy. And we were like, it'll be fine. You look at the weather report, we should be fine. So we go out, we take all the balloons, we're setting up the party, and then out of nowhere, the sky goes from gray to black. And then out of nowhere, boom, the wind hits and the rain hits. And you missed it. It was hilarious. Me, my mom, my dad, the people who came over to like help us set up the party, we are running around this park trying to catch balloons and tablecloths and everything, trying to shove them into cars and all that stuff. And so last minute we decided, hey, we're going to move the party to my house. So we have the party here. Was not ready. This house is not meant to hold 50 people, but we did it somehow. But it was really, really funny, and this is the point of the story, was, well, we lost the party to be able to go outside, so we had it here at the house. It was a success. It was awesome. He had a blast. It was great. It was a lot of fun, obviously. It's my kid's first birthday. It's my first kid. It was a cool moment. I can't believe he's 1 year old. I hate it. But I digress. We continue. So we're doing all that stuff, blah, 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 blah. So the next couple of days, the party was on Saturday. So on Monday, my wife had off, and I'm a stay-at-home dad, and we decided, hey, let's go to the park. Let's see what his party could have been like. And man, did this kid have a blast. I'll show you a little picture. There's a little one. There's my little man. That's him right there sitting. That's Papa with his big-ass hat. Man, I'm fat. I need to lose some weight. But we were playing. Dude was having such a blast. Was having such a good time in the car. It was like just playing and running around and playing with these other kids. I was like, man, what happened? But of course, right, we totally forgot when we were planning this party. Like, we had booked this months in advance. Like, Florida has 2 seasons, wet and dry. And the wet season is hurricane season. It has rained every single day for the last 2 weeks. Why would we expect that it wasn't going to rain? But it did, and it sucks. It's raining right now. I live in Florida. I've been here for the last, 15... Wait. I've been here for the last 17 years. This isn't new. But still, my dumbass decided that we were going to have a party outside. I wanted my son to be able to run around in the grass. The worst part of it all, right, is because... So my kid sleeps twice, right? So he has a morning nap and then an afternoon nap. And so we planned the party after his morning nap, right? Because he wakes up at 6:30, 7, goes to sleep at 9, 9:30, 10. He wakes up at 11. So we planned for the party to start at 11 and go to 3 because that's his wake window. He goes to sleep at 3. He wakes up at 4. And we had an opportunity. Do we pick the morning, the middle, the middle wake window, the afternoon, or the evening? And we picked the afternoon one because generally speaking, it tends to rain at night. During the day, it gets really hot. The water evaporates. And in the evening is when it all comes down. Great. We planned it out perfectly. Dude, the sky died. It was thundering. The house was shaking throughout the whole party. He goes to sleep and he wakes up. It's just sun for the rest of the day. If we would have picked the party to start in the afternoon, at 4 o'clock instead of at 11, we would have had the party there. It would have been great. It would have been outside. It would have played in the grass. It would have played in the water park. But no. We picked the morning one because that's what Florida does. And then the worst part is the very next day, sunny as crap and it rained at night. You can't win. You can't win. My twins' birthday party is Sunday, even though they're born on different days. Love it. Man, your life is just one adventure after the next. Yeah, it really is. That's dope, man. My son is only 8 months old. We were planning his birthday party coming up. They grow up too fast. I hate it, man. I hate how fast. It's one of these things where, dude, he's already a year old. My wife is already in the 3rd trimester, and, we're already planning for the second kid in, the sense of, my wife is pregnant. The second kid is coming, right? His due date is September 10th, right? It's the day before the Jets home opener, which I'm going to, by the way. Are you guys, let me know in the chat while I go on this little rant. Are any of you guys going to the home opener? Anyone going to be there? I'm curious. I'm going. I'm flying out of Florida. I'm going to be gone for 22 hours. I fly the day of and leave the next morning. But yeah. But yeah, it's crazy, man. They travel, they grow up so fast, and I hate it. Man, I envy your son. I wish I could nap. Yeah, that's right. Going to the Falcons game. My niece's due date is September 15th. Hey, look at that. My obviously I'm September, or my wife is September 10th. Ryan is September 11th or September 12th with his second daughter. A buddy of mine is September 9th. There's one more. There's one more person that's pregnant. I don't remember. There's another person that's like September 15th. They're all like, dude, people get pregnant in bunches. It's crazy. But, oh, man. K. Eddie, John Hepburn coming in right at the end. I'm sorry, guys. I got to end it. Why am I? Because I have a limit on how many mods. I'll go check Matthew Smith. We'll see how it goes. Guys, thank you for hanging out. It's thundering. My power is already like flickered. I don't know if you guys caught it because I have a light right here and it flickered. So I want to end the stream so I can turn off my computer and unplug stuff so that I don't lose power or get an electric shock. The thunderstorm is shaking the house. I'm surprised you guys haven't heard it or anything like that. Thank you so much for everyone that stopped by and hit the like button and hung out with me tonight. Hey, we'll be back next Friday for the live stream. I will have a new announcement in the next couple of days, really, when it comes to not the Talking Jets with Tigo channel, but there are some other things that we're going to be launching in the terms of the Talking with Tigo kind of line of stuff that I have going on, whether it's a new podcast that's going to be dropping. That's, again, this is not Jets related stuff, but if you're interested in that kind of stuff, I'll announce it here. I'm only going to talk about it once and then I'm never going to talk about it again. But if you want to get more Tigo content that isn't necessarily just Jets related, it's coming to you. We're starting up 2 new YouTube channels. We're relaunching another YouTube channel and restarting a podcast that I used to do. We're going to do a bunch of stuff. It's really, really exciting. We're getting all that stuff in the works. Thank you so much for everyone who hung out with me tonight. Thank you so much for everyone who hit the subscribe button and hit the like button. If you're catching this in the past, thanks for stopping by and watching. Let me know what you guys want to hear from me in the future, and I'll see you next Friday. Last but not least, go